Monday, March 12th, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, 2018. More water anomalies showing up from around the globe. This time the Mediterranean Sea, talks of water rise in San Francisco, and some big waves down around Puerto Rico. But first, in the Mediterranean, I'd like to thank Desiree for sharing this story with me from the island of Malta, where an atmospheric tsunami has caused the bays of Malta to slosh and flood the coastal communities. Just a couple of days ago, they're calling these Sichi waves. I'll show you an example of those here in just a moment, but you can see this picture here of the water coming way too far inland, covering a main road. The area we're talking about is right here. So it's kind of tying in with what we've got going on in Northern Europe. Now we're down in Southern Europe. And probably other places too, guys. This is a worldwide phenomenon. This is not just limited to the few places that we know of, and that's just my humble opinion. This is where the photograph was from, right in here. So this bay, the water began to slosh around, and it's being the culprit is being an atmospheric low that created what's known as the Sichi wave. Here, and probably other places too, but that's just what's being reported right now. A Sichi wave is, let's see if I can find it. I've got a lot of information, so bear with me if I bounce around a little bit. A Sichi is a standing wave oscillating in a body of water. This is basically an example of what occurs during a Sichi wave event. You have two waves or currents going in the opposite direction of each other, and then it creates an anomaly, and that's what has happened over here. Supposedly, that's what they're saying. But we're seeing this type of phenomenon all around the globe. And they're saying here the cause of the high waters was not climate change or tidal forces, but a phenomenon referred to by experts as an atmospheric tsunami, technically known as Sichi waves, or locally a Milguba. So this has happened before. It doesn't happen very often. It's kind of rare, to be honest with you. But examples like this are showing up all over the world. They're talking about sea level rise in San Francisco Bay. It's already starting, I guess, in some areas, but in the future, they're looking at San Francisco Bay getting a lot of new water and losing a lot of land mass in the coming years. Not only there, but South Florida is undergoing the same thing, all up and down the eastern seaboard, to be honest. I've got many new places marked on the map that you're starting to see a pattern, like we're seeing over here in Northern Europe and the UK. Look at the eastern seaboard of North America. We've been talking about the Mississippi for weeks, even months, but the eastern seaboard all the way down, clear into the Florida Panhandle. I could add more. I just haven't yet. The Bahamas, seeing water anomalies there. South Florida, Tampa Bay, Navarre, Florida, Pensacola, Florida, North Carolina, Maryland, South Carolina had rivers drain just a week ago. Coast of, like I mentioned, Maryland already. Seeing all kinds of action up in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. The harbors of New York, I've seen a couple of times where boats have been stuck in a couple of New York harbors. Let me show you what I found yesterday on some coastal webcams off the coast of New Hampshire yesterday. Check this out. This was during low tide, and I monitor these cameras all around the world. And yesterday when I made a pit stop on the northeastern seaboard, this is what I saw. People wandering around off the coast of New Hampshire with their cameras rolling. There's one example. Here is another example. You can see the water is at an extreme low tide level. Here's another example. This is in a different place, though. This is off the coast of Jersey. See a person here taking a picture of what looks like an extreme low tide event. That was yesterday around lunchtime, around 12:30 Eastern Time. Another picture again of a lot of sand. That's off the coast of New Hampshire. And once again, a little closer up, but That reminded me of the coast of Brazil when the water disappeared down there. Not quite as extreme, but that's what it reminded me of. And we're looking at more big waves today as yet a third nor'easter big storm system is moving into the area, possibly dropping as much as a foot of snow and possible big waves again, crashing into the coast of Boston and New Hampshire, creating beach erosion, moving around sand. We've been seeing that quite a bit lately. An ancient Roman aqueduct was uncovered off the southern coast of Spain during a storm event less than a week ago. Sand is being moved around and displaced along many, many shorelines. Could the currents, the ocean currents, do something like that? Or is it just strictly waves, storms in general? Or could the currents maybe do something like a big sand displacement? I guess if the currents were crossed, creating like a boiling effect in the water along certain areas, that would disturb the sand and relocate it, dislocate it in some capacity. Maybe in an extreme example like we saw up here where something from the ancient Roman era was uncovered off the eastern coast of the UK. A 7,000-year-old ancient forest, stumps from the forest were uncovered due to a major sand displacement. And that's all around, or at least all along the eastern coast of the UK. And there's more storms in the area today and this week, as far as that goes. Going up the coast of Spain, France, into the UK, Ireland right now as I'm doing this video. Just like we have another storm here generating off the eastern seaboard of the United States. Big storm coming into Hawaii starting tomorrow into Wednesday. Could see several inches of rain there. But I'm just wondering if the currents are not being influenced and if maybe they're not changing in some areas. We did get a report from Belize that a boat captain has noticed different currents than what he's used to, and he's spent his entire life out on the ocean navigating a boat. So he's very, very familiar with the ocean currents, and he's noticed that there are different currents now in this area. Some are overlapping, creating that boil effect that I just spoke about. That's being observed right here off the coast of Belize. So more of this phenomenon is continuing. Water is sloshing around the globe. Many, many places that we're hearing about, and there's probably many more that we have not heard about. Puerto Rico, they saw big waves on March 4th. I'd like to thank Chaka for sharing these. Actually shared a video. I just took some screenshots from the video. This is the shoreline. This is on the north end of Puerto Rico. You can see plenty of beach, and then within a minute, it's all gone. Extreme high tide situation. This was on March 4th of 2018. Here's another example here at Ocean Park, Puerto Rico. I'll post the link to the video in the description box if you'd like to check it out. Where do I have it? I've got about 100 windows open here. I'll post the link in the description box below, but just another example of big waves. This was off the coast of Puerto Rico, San Juan. There's a cruise ship that is a cruise destination, and there's a port in San Juan that takes in big cruise ships. This one was having trouble even getting into the port due to these high waves. And as you see in the video posted below in the description box, this large cruise ship is being tossed around like a toy boat due to the big waves. So this is a global phenomenon. It's happening, it seems like somewhere now on a daily basis that we hear of. And these are just the places that we hear of. Here's a car along the coast of Hatillo that was completely engulfed in a large wave. Again, that's the coast of Puerto Rico. Here's another example here. Gentleman walking along a street as the water comes in, probably 150 yards. There's a car parked here along the street. Gentleman walking, gets soaking wet. So more water phenomenon around the globe, guys. We got to look at some other options as to what's causing this on such a large scale. I mean, seriously, it's getting now pretty obvious that there's something going on that's affecting the entire globe. I noticed a trend the other day. There was a water phenomenon that occurred down here on the 2nd, actually March 1st into March 2nd. That phenomenon slowly worked its way up from the southern hemisphere into the northern hemisphere coasts, doing the same exact thing. There was examples of extreme water retreat and extreme high tide. And I know that was right after the full moon, but what was the extra horsepower if it was the full moon? I'm not saying that it was. We have a full moon practically every month, and we don't have tides getting on a extreme scale every month. But I'm just saying, you noticed a trend if you were following it, which I was. March 1st, water anomalies down here, they worked their way up all the way to the northern hemisphere, up to the UK by March 4th. Spent 48 hours working their way up in some capacity, whether it was extreme low tide or extreme high tides. And then another big nor'easter up here that created high tides that were engulfing homes over 20 feet high. So we're trying to connect the dots. I don't want to, necessarily sound any alarms just yet, but we've got to look at other options. And could it be the early stages of a pole shift? It's something that needs to be considered. These water anomalies are all over the earth, guys. It can't be low pressures every single time, or we would be hearing about this every single day. It wouldn't be anything new, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It would be old news. We'd hear about it all the time, It'd be as common as a thunderstorm. But I don't recall ever seeing this type of water being, this untamed. It's just going out of bounds in too many places. So is it the early stages of a possible pole shift? I don't know. I've never been here during a pole shift, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know that for sure, because I don't. And none of you do either. None of us have been here during a pole shift that we know of. But let's just say that this were the beginning stages of a pole shift. What would be one of the first things on Earth that would start to show signs of something big going on? It would be water. I think water would be the very first thing that would tell you, hey, something's up, especially on a global scale. Water would be your very first indicator. That, and in my humble opinion, your shields. One of those shields being the ozone layer that protects you from UV. If your magnetic shields start to go into a reversal mode, and I'm just trying to apply common logic here, that's all. If they go into a reversal mode, they're going to develop weak spots. Not necessarily one unified weak spot, maybe so. I don't know. I've never experienced a pole shift. But let's say that it created multiple weak spots on the daylit side of Earth. Don't you think the UV might be elevated in those weak spots? It should be. And we're detecting that. We'd started detecting that last year, and truth be known, it's probably been going on for a while. We just started recording UV last year, and we're recording total UV, okay? It's still solar radiation, but we're seeing large readings, and it's still winter in the northern hemisphere. So there could be something going on with the magnetic shields of Earth, yes. But again, I'm not saying that's the case, and I know that for a fact, because I don't. I'm just considering it. I'm considering it very strongly. The water on Earth is trying to tell us something. Okay, this has been going on for a while now, and I have a feeling it's going to continue throughout the summer, and we'll see what, the rest of the year brings. But we're seeing water do things that we're just not used to seeing on a weekly basis on a global scale. So it's just something to consider. And I'm going to have to make a different map. I wasn't prepared to put as many X's on this map that are currently there, and I have to update it yet. So I have to make a new map. That's how many water anomalies we're seeing now on a global scale. So anyway, guys, just a big heads up. Noticed some extreme low tides yesterday off the coast of New Hampshire, so be prepared for another big nor'easter, as another storm system is set to bring a foot of snow and high waves to the upper northeast of the United States. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a super day, and as always, be safe out there.